CPD points. So once we are done with the webinar and you paid, you shall be able to receive an email with a certificate. You will take this certificate and upload it on the KMHCB portal so that it's able to earn you the 3 CPD points. Once again, if you are new and you are not having, or you are not in our WhatsApp groups, ensure you join so that you're able to get real-time communication from us. And in case you have any problem, let's say you with your names as they have appeared in your certificate, or you have any issue with a missing certificate, we have always encouraged you to reach out after 3 days. So if you have any certificate that you don't have, or that it is not correctly written on your name, and 3 days have elapsed, just reach out so that we are able to, change for you, or we are able to write for you the correct names. Otherwise, today's presentation, as you can see on your screen, I'm sure you're able to see the screen, is from biopsy to sections, tissue handling in histopathology. Also today, we shall be having, at the end of this presentation, there is a bill that we have said before. I think you've seen that in our poster. And as you have seen, is that there's a bill called Quality Healthcare and Patient Safety Bill 2025. And maybe there's what we need to know as medical lab professionals. So at the end of this presentation, I'll encourage you not to leave, because we shall be joined by Safari Kidhi, who is the Akamulso National Executive Chairman, and Nicholas Odipo, who is the NAMLO, which is the union, the national chair for the union. There are a few things that you as a lab professional needs to know on the bill, that is the Quality Healthcare and Patient Safety Bill 2025. And we'd encourage you to wait until then so that you can hear what they have for us. Otherwise, at this time, I want to introduce the speaker of today. And as you can read from your screen, our speaker is Christine Osale. And Christine Osale is coming to us from Department of Laboratory Medicine at KNH, that is the Histopathology Lab. Christine holds a bachelor's degree in medical lab science, and she also has an MSc in clinical histopathology and cytology from JKUAT. And also Christine is a part-time lecturer at JKUAT. So with that, welcome everyone. I will be your moderator, Frederick Obade. And if you have any questions, you can be free to interact with us on the chat box. Or if you have any comment, you can be free also to interact with us on the chat box, and also at the tail end of this presentation. With that, welcome Christine, and proceed.
Thank you, Fred. Hi, everyone. I hope you can hear me. My name is Christine Osale from Kenyatta National Hospital, Laboratory Medicine, Histopathology Laboratory. I have, as Fred has said, a Master of Science in Clinical Histopathology and Cytology, in addition to a BSc in Medical Laboratory Sciences. Today, we are going to discuss, our topic today is from biopsy to sections. That is the tissue handling in histopathology. Welcome, everyone, to the webinar. So let's start with objectives. Our objectives today will be to understand the role of histopathology in clinical diagnosis and develop proficiency in tissue handling. An overview of the presentation. Histopathology is a field of pathology focused on the diagnosis and study of diseases, particularly cancer, sorry for that. Histopathology is a field of pathology focused on the diagnosis and study of diseases, particularly cancer, by examining the tissues and cell structures under the microscope. So what is cancer? Cancer is a disease in which abnormal cells divide uncontrollably and destroy the normal body tissues. It is a significant cause of death globally, with millions of deaths being reported each year. The etiology of this disease, cancer, is still unknown, but there have been some theories or risk factors that has been linked to cancer, some of which include lifestyle. People say that if you take alcohol, sedentary lifestyle, maybe poor diet, obesity, smoking, unprotected sex, and excessive sun exposure, genetics, that is family history, radiation, hormonal imbalances. There are so many theories that have been linked to be the risk factors of cancer, but the real cause of this cancer still remains unknown. So my dear viewers, if you have any other theory or you know, or something you think that can be causing cancer, maybe you can interact with us, maybe in the chat section, and we can discuss about it. So, because the etiology of cancer is still remains unknown, it's very difficult to prevent it, because you will prevent something that you know where the cause is coming from. But since we don't know the cause of cancer, it's very difficult for us to prevent it. So what are we supposed to do? Routine screening, early diagnosis, and timely intervention. We are advised to always go for routine screens. For men, we know the screens that are usually available. For ladies, we know the pap smears, the mammograms. It's always advisable to go for routine screening. Maybe during the routine screening, the doctor may be able to notice something. Maybe something's not wrong with somewhere in the body, and that's where the issue of diagnosis will start coming in, and timely intervention will always save a day. So how is cancer being diagnosed? Cancer is usually diagnosed through the triple assessment. Triple assessment means we have the clinical assessment, whereby the clinician will be examining the patient physically based on the signs and symptoms of the patient. Then we have the radiological studies, including the scans, X-rays, the mammograms, and then we have the laboratory studies. For the laboratory studies, we'll do all the blood works, cytology screens, the pap smears, the FNAs, but histopathology still remains the gold standard. Will always be the gold standard for diagnosis. So what are the samples that are received in a histopathology laboratory? Now, to us lab professionals, here is where we come in, the laboratory now. We have the biopsies and autopsies. These are primarily the specimens that you expect to receive in a histopathology laboratory. And these biopsies are normally taken from the patient through surgical procedures from the patient, or from the patient, because they're biopsies, and they should be fixed immediately after being taken from the body. Autopsies, them will be taken from, they are just specimens from dead bodies, and once they are taken, they all should also be put in appropriate fixative to allow the samples to fix. So what happens when the samples have been taken from the body and it's being delivered to the laboratory? We are going to talk about the reception, identification, and accessioning. There in the laboratory, when the sample is being delivered, there's always an officer at the reception. The officer should be having adequate knowledge on what to check for when a biopsy is being delivered in the lab. The container containing the biopsy, together with the request form, should bear the patient's full name, the hospital unique identifier, the age and gender of the patient, the word or the source of the specimen. It might be maybe from an outside facility. Then clinical diagnosis. It's very important for us, because you might be receiving a biopsy that is not relevant to the clinical diagnosis of that particular patient. Then tissue description. Which type of tissue are you receiving? Is it a uterus? Is it a breast? Is it a lung tissue? It should be written clearly on the request and on the specimen container. Then the specimen should be in adequate fixative. The person the officer at the reception should be able to tell whether the fixative is adequate or not. And if it's not, they should know what to do. In histology, we don't reject any sample. We always advocate for troubleshooting, even if the specimen is delivered and fixed or unlabeled, because the person delivering the specimen is still there. Just tell the person to take back the specimen to the source so that it can be well identified, and let the people identifying the sample take responsibility for that particular correction. If you reject, for instance, you are rejecting a whole mastectomy, that is a breast tissue specimen. Of course, the patient will not be able to get another one, or a uterus for that matter. You will not be able to get another specimen. So you do not reject, even if it's unlabeled, kindly try to locate the source of that particular specimen, then let them take responsibility and identify the specimen correctly. So once it has been identified well, the specimen for that particular case is accessioned. Accession is just giving the specimen a unique identifier. It might be some hospital will, every hospital or laboratory will have a method of identifying specimens. Some will be able to identify the specimen maybe using the word biopsy, just write B, then the number, then the year. The year is very important because of filing purposes. Because in histology, after the end result, once you're having a block, we file them for quite some time because they can be used for maybe research. These blocks may be also be used for further studies. So, and it might be even more than 5 years later. So the year is very important. So you have to accession, you'll accession according to the procedure. Every lab should be having an SOP on how they accession their samples. Then once the specimen has been accessioned, our biopsy will go to trimming or growthing. This one is mostly done by a pathologist and a technologist. It can be done if there are small samples by technologists or scientists alone, depending on how a particular laboratory works. So what is growthing? This is just the macroscopic identification of tissues, and trimming is the cut up of the tissue into smaller pieces of 2 to 3 millimeters thickness. And this thickness is very important because we advocate for 2 to 3 millimeters so that the tissue can be able to fit into the cassettes that are normally used for processing, and also allow the reagents used in processing to penetrate evenly inside the tissues. So if you cut so big tissues, they might not be able to process well, and that one will cause problems in later stages, maybe microtomy, sectioning, and even staining. So what happens during growthing? We normally say the 5 C's. You describe the 5 C's of the tissue. The 5 C's is normally the color. You describe the tissue color. If it's tan, if it's white, if it's gray, yellow, you describe the color, because maybe change in color might be an effect of the disease. If a normal tissue is supposed to be white and this one is appearing tan, then that means that there's something wrong with that particular tissue. So you describe the color, then contours. Contours are the shape of the tissue. So is it oval? Is it regular? Is it lobulated? You might find some tissues, maybe it's supposed to be even normally, but it's now lobulated, meaning some growths have grown on that particular tissues. Then consistency. Is it soft? Is it friable? Is it hard? For like tissues like the bones are expected to be hard. So when tissue is hard during description, that will tell you that this tissue cannot be processed unless it has undergone decalcification. Because if you process it that way, it will not process well. And then another thing, it will cause some damage to the cutting edge of the microtome knife, which we'll see just as we go on. So consistency is very important. You will make a decision whether the tissue is soft enough to process, or it will need to undergo some decalcification, just the removal of calcium ions that makes the tissues hard. Then another thing is the measurement, which is normally given in centimeters. Here you measure the tissue, the length, the diameter, and then you also, if the biopsy is delivered as a whole organ, it is advisable that you even measure the weight, because we have the normal weight of some tissues. So when the tissue is maybe malignant, it has a growth, it has overgrown, you have to take the weight. It's very important. Then the cut surface of the tissue, how does it appear? After looking at the tissue, the pathologist will proceed to cut the tissue, and then will also describe the cut surface. Is it red? Is it even? Is it necrotic? Is it appearing tan? Then you will also describe the cut surface of that particular tissue. Then when you are still at the grossing, if the tissues are very tiny, you will need to use either filter papers to put in the tiny tissues, like the gastric biopsies or the core biopsies. Because if you don't put in filter papers, these tissues are likely to be lost during processing, because the normal cassettes have bigger pores. So that you might lose these tissues during processing. And in the process of losing those particular tissues, they might also contaminate other tissues. So you'll be surprised when you are examining, the pathologist is examining the tissue under the microscope. It is a brain tissue, but you're seeing the squamous cells from the maybe cervix, and you'll be like, what is happening? So it's always very important that you are very keen in handling the tiny specimens. If you're not using, if you're lucky enough, if your laboratory is lucky enough, you might be having the cassettes with micropores. They have those cassettes with very tiny pores that will not allow the tissues to evaporate. And then you just use that particular cassette with small tissues without having to put in filter papers. And another thing that you have to put into consideration when processing those tiny tissues, it's advisable that we add some dye, like maybe eosin, to color the tissue, or we have tissue marking dyes. You add to those tissues to identify the tissues. Why? Because these tissues mostly, maybe they appear whitish, and the embedding medium that is normally used is paraffin wax, which is normally white. So when you process the tiny tissues without any dye, without marking them, during blocking, that particular tissue will be identical to the background, to the block, which is white. The paraffin wax is white. So you'll not be able to tell where the tissue is, and you might end up losing that particular tissue during microtomy or sectioning. So it's very important that you give some attention to those tiny tissues. So after tissues have been cut into smaller pieces, because we are cutting up because we cannot process a whole organ like a uterus. You cannot process the entire uterus. So you cut up into smaller pieces, and then these smaller pieces are placed in tissue cassettes. I'm hoping we can all try to figure out how tissue cassettes looks like. Then these cassettes containing tissues are placed in a container containing fixative for further fixation, because it's not, most of the tissues, especially the whole organs, will not fix well when they're whole. But when you cut them, then the fixative is able to penetrate now evenly into the tissues. So you put them in the fixative and allow them to post-fix for further fixation, because fixation is the foundation of histology. Poorly fixed, there's no remedy for poorly fixed tissues. If they don't fix well, they'll process poorly, microtomy will be difficult, and your section will not come out clearly. They'll be opaque, and they'll be having some creases and all that. So it's always important that you ensure that tissues are fixed well. The fixative will not damage the tissue, so long as you're using the appropriate fixative. So just make sure the tissues are fixed well, then you proceed to processing. So once you have grossed your tissues or cut up the tissues, you place them, they are now in cassettes. You place those cassettes containing tissues into a tissue basket. And this tissue basket it's used to hold the tissues during processing. So what are the points that you are supposed to consider before you start processing? First, the duration of processing. If you're having like big tissues, yes.
Are you able to move the slides? Are they moving?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
Yeah. So tissue processing, factors to consider, you have to consider the duration that your processing is going to take. If you're having the small tissues, you'll set your program if you're having an auto processor according to the size of your tissues. If you're having mixed tissues, it's good that you go with the standard processing, maybe 1 hour in each container. Then you have to ensure that your tissues are completely fixed before you start processing. So how are tissues processed? We have the manual methods for starters. For some of us who are planning to start laboratory histology laboratories, you can start by just processing your tissues manually. You'll just have to arrange the staining jars in order with the staining reagent, with the processing jars in order with the processing reagents, and then you process them manually. And that one will require that you are there present. You are present there, because you'll need to constantly agitate will be required to agitate the tissues, maybe at an interval of 15 minutes during processing. Then another way of processing your tissues is by use of automated tissue processors. These are just some examples of tissue processors in the market. We have many. The first one on my left, this one is called the tissue transfer tissue processor. You can see the jars are arranged there. You place your tissues, their cassette holder, in one of the jars, maybe the first jar, and then you'll set your program here. After you set your program, the tissues will process in the first jar. Once they are done, the tissues will be transferred to the second jar, process according to the time that has been set, then to the next jar, process, then like that until the process is complete. This one, that's why it's given the name deep and dunk. Then another type of processor that can be used is this one. This one uses vacuum. And this one is a high consumer of reagents compared to the first one. You can see the color coding. We have the green, that one, the first two, they are for post-fixation. So you add your NBF, normal buffered formalin here, then allow them to fix well. Then the blue color is for the alcohols, grades of alcohol. During tissue processing, we just see in a few. We have grades of alcohols. So this one's the color, which blue or green, that one. Then we have this one here. Then we have this one. The red one is for the clearing reagent, mostly xylene. Nowadays, with the market, in the market, I'm told we have the tissue clear, which is less flammable, less harsh to human compared to xylene and chloroform. Then we have this one, these two here, they are for xylene and alcohol for cleaning the bags. So what happens here? You put this one is called a retort holder. You put your tissues in the tissue basket, your cassettes in the tissue basket, and you place here in the retort. Then they will stay here until the entire process is done. This one is the wax bath. You'll realize that wax has to be maintained at a temperature, a given temperature, which is slightly higher than the melting point of wax, because it has to be maintained in molten state throughout. So they are different. The wax baths are normally different from the normal jars. So this one is the wax jars, they are metallic, and we'll also just come here and come back until the last bath of the last wax is pumped here, and it remains here until when you, and even after the program ends, that wax will remain here, because the tissue those tissues have to be suspended in wax until they are embedded. If you remove wax, they'll of course just dry up. So you just have to, when you come to remove your tissues here, we'll start by draining the wax, then you can remove your tissue basket. So what are the steps involved in tissue processing? As we have said, we have to make sure the tissues are well fixed. So after grossing, the tissues are given some time to fix well if you are going to process manually. But if you're going to process using an autoprocessor, the autoprocessor already contains a provision for fixative. So you just like 2 baths for fixation. So you can just set your program immediately after processing, after trimming, and the process continues. The tissues will fix and continue to process. For autoprocessors, of course, you don't need to be there. You can set it to process overnight, then come back in the morning to continue with the next stage. So as I've shown you in the tissue processor, after fixation, we go to dehydration. This is just the complete removal of all traces of water from the tissue. And why are we removing water from tissues? Because we know all tissues contain water. Even the fixative that is used contain water. So why are we removing water from tissues? It's because many embedding medium are immiscible with water. The most commonly used embedding medium is molten paraffin wax, and that molten paraffin wax is immiscible with water. So we have to remove all the traces of water from the tissues. And it's done in this process called dehydration. And this one is achieved by using ascending grades of alcohols. We can start from 70, 80, 90, then 2 changes of absolute. Why 2 changes of absolute? To ensure that all the water has been removed from the tissue. We don't have to carry over any water, because the next stage, the reagent used in the next stage of tissue processing is immiscible with the water. So you have to make sure that during this process of dehydration, the last alcohol is very clear. It doesn't contain any trace of water. We have several dehydrating agents, but the most commonly used is isopropyl alcohol. Then the next stage of tissue processing, after you have dehydrated, you have removed all the water. We call it clearing. And this is the removal of alcohol from the blocks of tissues. Medium. So the reagents that are normally used here, it's mostly xylene. Xylene is considered the best clearing agent. So during this stage, the tissues are also being rendered transparent.
We are proceeding well. I think our presenter just logged out a bit, but she's going to be back. And for those of you who have questions or any comments, I want to encourage you to just write on the chat box, or you can also You will be given a chance to be answered or to ask your questions at the end of this presentation. So just continue writing your concerns and your questions or comments. We shall attend to them at the end of the presentation. Also, I can see we are logged in from all over the country, and we are glad. And for those of you who maybe are joining us for the first time, ensure that you have registered using your official names as you'd want them to appear on your certificate, so as to avoid missing certificates. Also ensure that you log in using your right email, because that email is what we shall use to send the certificates. So also, if you're joining us for the first time, your certificates will be ready immediately at the end of this presentation, but reach out after 3 days. Reach out after 3 days. So if you don't get after 3 days, kindly reach out to us so that we're able to assist you. I'm seeing many of you still have issues with loading or uploading your certificates. That is, maybe you have a problem on how you self-report. I think we send a couple of videos to our WhatsApp group. We also hosted KMHTB here, officers from KMHTB, and they were able to guide us on how to self-report. So if you're still having those challenges, kindly, we directed you to write your email and your ID number and WhatsApp to KMHTB through this number, 0706 110 110. So if you're not able to sign up, or maybe you change your email and you're not able to self-report for purposes of earning your CPD points, kindly reach out to KMHTB by writing your email and ID and send a WhatsApp to 0706 110 110. Otherwise, this presentation is live on YouTube. You can be able to log in on YouTube, and probably you can also be able to refer. You can be able to refer to this presentation and even our previous presentations. If there's a presentation that you missed, just go to our YouTube. You can go subscribe our YouTube channel, that is Lab Medicine Society of Kenya, and you can be able to get all the videos that have been done for your own reference. Just note that we don't issue any certificates through watching via YouTube. If you want to be eligible for a certificate, you must join via Zoom. So to all of us also who have paid and are unable to join this live webinar, we usually have a recorded version of this webinar. The recorded version will be sent out immediately after the webinar, and you shall have, at your convenience, you can watch between after the webinar until tomorrow, 12 p.m. So maybe you can just advise even your colleagues, those maybe who paid and have not been able to register, that they can always watch the recorded version. It's always there on our WhatsApp groups. So, and for you to be eligible for a certificate, you must watch between after the webinar and 12 p.m. the following day. So I think largely that is an area of concern to many of you. And I've also just made an announcement that after this webinar, don't log out. There is a bill that is up, and I think you have seen the invitation from the Cabinet Secretary for Health that is asking you, or that is asking public participation. And we have requested you that we shall have a discussion today. There are a few things that you need to know on that bill, that is the Quality Healthcare and Patient Safety Bill 2025. And on that note, at the end of this webinar, We shall be joined by Mr. Safari Kithi, who is the Akamulso National Executive Chairman, and also Nicholas Odipo, who is the union, that is the NAMLO National Chair. There are a few things that you need to know as a medical lab practitioner, and kindly just don't log out until we get what they have to tell us. So I think with that, our presenters had said encountered a few issues, a few challenges, and we are trying to just reconnect her back, and we are almost there. So just hold on for a minute so that you're able to proceed with the presentation. So once again, I say that if you have any questions, feel free to use the Q&A for any question. You can see the Q&A on that Zoom app. Just write to us, and we shall be able to attend to most of your questions. Otherwise, I'm glad that we are logged in from across the country, and we hope that together we are going to learn, because learning does not end. Every day we learn something. You can always join this webinar so that you can be able to refresh your knowledge. You can be able to learn something. You can be able to learn what other labs are doing and things like that. So for those of you who had issues or who have issues with your details at KMLTTB portal, once again, I've repeated that write your email and your ID number. Write a WhatsApp message to KMLTTB through number 0706 110 110. Otherwise, for purposes of self-reporting, kindly, I'm seeing many of you are doing an error whereby when you are self-reporting, you write the name of the presenter. Kindly write the name of the provider, which is Lab Medicine Society of Kenya. Don't write the name of the presenter. Also, when you are asked about a physical location, just write Nairobi, or you can write Lunga Square, Nairobi. If you are asked our email, write our correct email, which is labmedicinekenya@gmail.com. So just ensure you capture every detail correctly so that you avoid your certificate from being rejected. Again, when you're doing self-reporting, capture the topic accurately as it is. For example, this one, it is from biopsy to sections. Tissue handling in histopathology. Ensure you write it exactly as it is. Otherwise, when you change or you just write histopathology, chances of your certificate being rejected are going to be very high. So write, when you are self-reporting, write the topic as it appears on the certificate. And I've said, for example, this one is from biopsy to sections, tissue handling in histopathology. Ensure you capture it as it is. Otherwise, we don't expect your certificates to be rejected, and we just hope that we shall be able to learn together. Otherwise, I've said that we want to apologize. Our presenter and our speaker faced some challenges, and as a result, she was not able to proceed, but we are trying to fix her challenge, and she will be in a short while. She will be in a short while. We are almost fixing the challenge so that she will be in. Otherwise, I want to repeat again that at the end of this webinar, don't log out. There are a few critical issues that you need to know as a medical lab practitioner that may affect you or may affect us as a profession. And we shall have a small discussion that will be led by the National Executive Chair for Akamulso, that is Mr. Safari Kithi, and the National Chair for the Union, Nicholas Odipo. They're already in. So we shall just, when we end this, they shall pick it up and tell you one or two things that you need to know regarding the upcoming bill. So Just be there, just wait, don't log out. Don't log out so that you're able to just learn together and hear what they have to say. I don't know whether you've had a chance to look at the Quality Healthcare and Patient Safety Bill 2025. If you haven't, they will tell us what it means for you as a practitioner. So I think we are almost there now. And let me just confirm. And yeah, I think we're almost there. So we want to apologize and ask for your patience as we fix this. This is a new terrain for many of you and even many of us. So sometimes we experience such challenges, and we shall be able to overcome. We are fixing it shortly. But meanwhile, if you have any concerns, be free to chat with us. Use the QA for any questions. You can write directly to us so that we're able to discuss together from your end. Also, many of you are asking about Lab Medicine Society of Kenya. Maybe you want to be a member. Remember, this is a society that is open. And if you just want to join and you meet the minimum requirements, you can just join by just visiting our website, and you join and you become a member. So it's not a profit-making organization. This is a society, free. Its membership is free. You can join. Just go to the website if you meet the minimum requirements and just join. Otherwise, I still see many of you have many questions on KMLTB. I think there's so many of you, but I can see some of you are telling me to repeat the number. I just repeat that the number is 0706 110 110. Ann Karaoke asking me to explain about the provider. When you are reporting, don't write the name of the presenter. Just write the name of the provider, which is Lab Medicine Society of Kenya. And you can always get our details. If you just Google that, you can get our details. But for your benefit, our email address is labmedicinekenya@gmail.com. And then I said that when you are writing the topic that you have learned, write exactly as it appears on your certificate. Write exactly as it appears on your certificate. And then I can see those who are saying, I think there's a large concern from our presentation that we did here about the certificates expiring. I think for the record, knowledge does not expire, and so does your certificate. It does not expire. It's only that KMLTB encouraged us to report within 2 weeks. They did not say that it will expire. Let me make that clarification. I don't speak for KMLTB, but I think there's a notion out there that CPD certificates expire. I want to debunk that. It's not true. Your certificate will be valid for every CPD year. It could be from November up to November. So I don't think that the certificate does not expire. So once you receive your certificate, KMLTB encouraged us to report within 2 weeks, but not to say that it expires after 2 weeks. And I think the logic is that most of us may want to accumulate the certificates until the end of the year. So you can imagine 20,000 officers accumulating all those certificates, and they all want to upload at the same time. Let's say all of us want to upload in December. It could be a lot of work for KMLTB and their officers. And even for you, some of you, when they are reporting, is when you remember you have a certificate that you are missing. You could also be coming to a provider for a certificate that happened, let's say in June or in April, and it's December. So I think for your own benefit, KMLTB encouraged us to report within 2 weeks, but that does not mean that your certificate will expire. I think that should come out very clearly. You will self-report at your own convenience. I think that needs to come out very clearly. Those of you who have challenges on certificates, you will receive a different certificate. Kindly reach out to us. We usually send in a complaint form and we usually work on it. Some of you think we don't work on the link or on the complaints. Just fill in the complaint form. If you feel that you have filled in the complaint form and there is no response, you can always reach out to us on our contacts. So I think there is someone asking whether we submit our attendance to the board. Yes, we do. Once we are done with our webinar, we report our attendance. We submit our attendance or the attendance sheet to the board. The only aspect that has not happened is that there is no integration. Even if we submit, you will still have to go back and self-report. So that needs to come out very clearly. I think that question, I'm seeing a lot of you have asked it about expiry of the CPD certificates. Someone is still asking if they accumulate the 50 CPD points, whether the rest will be carried forward. I think we are here majorly to learn. Whether there will be CPDs or not, we are just here to improve how the practice. And I'm sure the CPDs are valid for a calendar year. So I think the rest of the questions are for the presenter. And as I'd said earlier, I want to sincerely apologize that we did not see, that we did not anticipate to have this challenge. But because this is a new terrain, we understand. Our presenter developed a few issues, a few challenges. And as a result, she was logged out of the meeting. But I can report that we are able to fix that. We've been able to fix that. And she's just projecting a slide so that we can proceed. So once again, I want to apologize for that. Our presenter was, experienced some challenges. And as a result, she was logged out of the meeting. And we have been able to just fix the problem. She has joined and she's projecting her slides shortly. So kindly bear with us, just bear with us so that we are able to fix this. So once again, I want to say that for those of you who are able to register, I can see we are many of us here, we are over 2,000. So for those of you who are able to pay and were not able to attend, we shall have a recorded version of this webinar. You can always watch before 12 p.m. the next day so that you're able to get your certificate. Those of you who are saying we do the webinar at night, kindly watch the recorded version at your own convenience, let's say in the evening. But our sessions will remain to be from 3 p.m. to 4:30. So again, when you are self-reporting, it's very important. Write the minutes we take for LMSK webinars. They are 90 minutes, 1 hour, 30 minutes. So ensure you capture that 1 hour, 30 minutes from 3 to 4:30. Again, we always encourage that you are only eligible for a certificate if you attend. So if you pay and you don't attend, we're very sorry, we may not guarantee you a certificate. And that's why we've made a provision that you may pay and maybe get caught up in some other things. take your time and just watch. Zoom, which is the platform that we are using, will automatically send us your attendance list. So this attendance list is what we also present to the board. So there's no way you will pay, don't attend, and expect a certificate. You pay, you attend. If you're not able to attend the live webinar, kindly log in to the recorded version, just watch, and you shall be eligible for the 3 CPD points. So once again, I think we have been able to resolve this challenge. And so once again, sorry for that. Sorry for the inconvenience caused. Sorry for the inconvenience caused. So allow me just a minute to fix this, then we can have the presenter back. So, okay, once again, members, for those of you asking whether we are still on, I think we have had a challenge. And at this point, I want to invite our guests to today who are to talk or who are to tell us more about the bill. That is specifically what I'd shared earlier. Safari Kithi, if you are in, Safari, are you able to hear me? So let me just get Mr. Safari on board and Mr. Odipo. As I said earlier that there's a bill that we needed to just brainstorm, all of us, and know what it's all about. And we were to have Mr. Safari Kithi, who is the National Executive Chair for Kamulso, and also Nicholas Odipo, who is the union, that is the National Union of Medical Lab Officers, the national chair, to just share one or two things or insights regarding the bill. And I just want to invite them so that they can be able to proceed. Sorry for that. We have been able to get hold of Mr. Safari. I think he also had challenges joining, but he's joining shortly. Mr. Odipo is also joining, and he also experienced challenges with his Zoom. And as I said earlier, these are just part of the challenges. It looks like a new terrain for most of us, but we shall be able to overcome. So Mr. Safari Kithi is joining in a moment, and Mr. Nicholas Odipo is also joining in a moment. So just hold on. We are sorry for this. We are very sorry for the inconvenience, but they are joining. Immediately they join, they shall proceed to the other part, which I said earlier is to tell you one or two things concerning the Quality Healthcare and Patient Safety Bill 2025, what you need to know as a medical lab professional. So just hold in there in a minute so that they can be able to join.
Karibu sana, Odipo Nicholas. Fred, you can take it away.
Yes, we have this. We have Mr. Odipo Nicholas, who is, as I said earlier, is the Kenya National Union of Medical Lab Officers National Chair. So, Mr. Odipo, you are welcome to this platform. I think you have the honor to address most of our members. I think around 2,000 plus are here. So you can unmute. And I had said earlier that there's a bill. And in this case, I said it's the Quality Healthcare and Patient Safety Bill 2025. And this is what we need to know as the lab professionals. So I want to invite you to unmute and proceed to speak. Odipo, you can unmute and proceed to speak. Odipo, if you can hear me, you can unmute and proceed to speak. Odipo, if you can hear me, you can unmute. Odipo, if you can hear me, just unmute and speak. Very well. Unmute. We are sorry, members, for this. I had said earlier that looks like a very new terrain for most of us, but we shall overcome the challenges. Odipo, if you can hear me, just unmute and speak.
Hello, good evening.
We can hear you. Proceed now.
Good evening. How are you? Now, I was supposed to make a presentation on the quality of care and patient safety bill. I don't know if it is my time to make that presentation or I wait. I'm just logging in right now.
It's your time. Proceed, Odipo.
Okay, thank you. Now, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Nicholas Odipo. I'm the National Chairman, Kenya National Union of Medical Laboratory Officers. As I've mentioned, there's a bill that has been drafted by the Ministry of Health, and I just want to give a synopsis of that bill, and also give a brief history on why such a bill is coming up. If you can all remember, in 2017, the Ministry of Health came up with what is now known as the Health Act 2017, And the Health Act brought in a number of authorities. There was the Kenya Health Advisory Human Resource Advisory Committee or Authority. And then there was KHPOA, that is the Kenya Health Professional Oversight Authority. The function of the KHPOA was to coordinate inspection, a joint inspection between all the regulatory bodies, that is the KMLTTB, the BPB, the Clinical Officers Councils, the Nursing Council of Kenya, and the Medical Doctors Council. So this was supposed to start in earnest, and they were even given the budget to coordinate that activity. Unfortunately, and as usual, whenever people are given work to do in this country, they don't do that work properly. And they are always not contented with whatever they are given, they have been given. Because the person who was appointed in that as the CEO of that authority is the one who was supposed to coordinate that thing. Unfortunately, there was still disjointed inspection whereby each regulator was going for inspection by themselves. Like of recent, there was an inspection that was supposed to take place, but our colleagues, the doctors, decided to go on that inspection alone, leaving the rest of the regulators behind. And you find that when they go, they want to inspect everything, including the labs that they have no jurisdiction. So it has always been chaotic environment, and this has prompted some people to start questioning what really happened, because if you are given work to do, then you are supposed to go and do it. So I think they questioned the KHPOA people to explain the reason why the purpose of creating that authority was not being realized. Number one, they were told to come up with a master register. That is the register of all the healthcare professionals in the country, in the all cadres. But what they did, they went for the unregulated cadres. That is the register they gave out. And then now they were asked, where
Odipo,
the rest
we lost you.
of,
Odipo, we lost you. Can
cadres?
you kindly work on your audio once again and come back? We lost you somewhere.
I think I can hear you
Hello,
well.
can you hear me?
Odipo,
Yeah.
proceed. Odipo,
Proceed,
please
please.
proceed.
Proceed.
I proceed. Oh, thank you. Now, what happened is that they took a register of the unregulated cadres only, and they were asked to give out the master register of all the healthcare professionals, as was the purpose of the main vision of that KHPOA. Now, these are colleagues, as you are what they have been given. Scenario 2 is where now came the SHA thing. And as you've seen, there have been a push and pull as to who is supposed to license the healthcare facilities, and also is supposed to authorize treatment using SHA. And our colleagues, the KUKO, have been all over fighting so that they could be empaneled as part of the SHA to offer the services from the SHA. Now, this one has also to the colleagues from the medical doctors, where they feel that they are the only ones who are supposed to empower to license people, and they are the ones who are supposed to be empaneled by SHA to offer medical care services. As a matter of fact, KMLTTB, which is also a regulator, was never empaneled, meaning we, the medical laboratory officers, in any case, we have our own labs, then we are not able to offer our services and be paid by SHA. Or rather, if we have to, then we'll have to engage a medical doctor and use his license in registering our labs so that they can we can offer we can now be empaneled by SHA. So after the clinical officers somehow succeeded in getting in bringing convincing the ministry and the parliament, and whereby they were also instructed to go to the SHA was instructed to empanel them so that their facilities could offer services and be paid by SHA. Our guys have been a bit uncomfortable, and that licensor of healthcare facilities, meaning there's nobody who will be allowed to register any healthcare facility if you are not a medical doctor. And that one will means that even the labs, you will not be allowed to register your own lab if you don't have, or rather, if you cannot access the license of any medical doctor. So this is what these people are actually after. They just want to centralize these things so that they can manage us. In other words, they are the ones who wants to do business of healthcare in this country. And if you look at that bill, they are so much interested in private practice, because like in our act, they have gone specifically to the section that talks about private practice, whereby the board is supposed to establish standards of private practice and license the private laboratories and also inspect those labs. So they have gone and said that that section has to be repealed, and that function be transferred to this authority, this quality of healthcare patient safety authority that is coming. So as medical laboratory, we feel that whatever that is being, that these people are aiming is just to disrupt our functions and make us their subordinate in all the sectors that we are supposed to operate independently. And that is the reason why the union has started making noise, because we did made noise some times back when we realized that they were coming up with something to do with the merger. But now, instead of that merger, they have come with a more lethal tool to convince people, because they want to really to leave us. To leave the board with only licensing the personnel, and they are taking the licensor. I'm getting a lot of distractions, but let me just try. Now, the licensor of the facilities they are going to take, meaning you will be required to. Sasa. Let me just finish here. Sorry. I'm not in office now.
It's okay, just proceed.
What they are trying to do is to make us subordinates, yeah, whereby you cannot open your own private lab somewhere, yeah. And the board, if the board has to come and inspect, then the board will come through them. And let me tell you one thing, colleagues, this war has been here with us for quite some time. As much as we might be blaming our board has also done some of, has also done some recommended job that all of us need to appreciate. You can see how even the rapid test kits are coming. These rapid test kits, the board stopped validating them sometimes back in 2017. The reason why they stopped is that these people went and convinced the then Minister for Health, and they told the minister that our board was not capable of validating some of these kits. The reason why they were doing this, the board told them that there's nobody who can import any test kit and start supplying them to the market without validation. But now some powerful people had already imported test kits. And this thing, it goes back to around 2014, when 2015, when they wanted to change the HIV algorithm. And those people who were at work during that time, you remember the era of the KHB, the fast response, and the determine, whereby they removed the Unigold and the BioSD BioLine. Yeah. So that thing started then. And when the government allowed that change, we all saw what happened. The KHB that these people had brought in were faulty, and anybody that was using that KHB, you could have realized that they were giving false positive results. Yeah. So when they came, after doing that, and they saw that the government could give in to their demands, in 2017, when they brought in another batch of the test kits, the rapid test kits. So when they brought in another batch, when KMLTTB told them, no, we are not going to allow these kits to be supplied to the market, we have to do validation and know whether these things are valid and they can give results. After the experience with the KHB, they went to the minister and told them that they were being frustrated. KMLTTB was not willing to allow them do business. Their business was being run down by KMLTTB, and so many things. And around 2018, the minister gave out a directive that Pharmacy and Poisons Board was supposed to take over the validation of the test kits. Yeah. So this war we are fighting, it is not a war that started recently. It is something that it is being schemed. We also know that we have people called pathologists in this country, even though we don't know where they work. We only hear that we have pathologists. Some are in the former provincial hospital. That's now the level 5 hospitals, but they're very few. I don't know whether they are few or not, but we understand that people like that are there. So they have been colluding with their association because they have found that in the lab space, they cannot crack and get into our space because we have been so formidable and we have suffocated them to getting into the lab. So around last year, we were having a conversation with one of our senior member, and he told me a story that they were in Rwanda, and in that Rwanda, there's a gentleman, a medical doctor, who came to him and told him that, you lab guys, why are you frustrating my people? And he went ahead and said that the KMLTTB was imposing taxes on registration of labs, of which that was not the case. The case was KRA gave a directive that all services have to be taxed. So KMLTTB was only implementing the directive of KRA. Unfortunately, they didn't take that lightly and saw it as like our people were frustrating their efforts. So what he said, he told our senior guy that they will finish us. That was it. They will finish us. And with that, they will finish us. Colleagues, we have really fought a lot of war. Currently, our division, that is our only hope at the Ministry of Health, was being transferred into what is now called NPHI. And the reason why these people wanted to remove that division there is for us to lose focus. The moment you are not in the mainstream ministry, even policy making, you cannot do any policy, you cannot set standards, you'll just have chaotic environment. So we have been fighting that, and luckily we are seeing light at the end of the tunnel. But unfortunately, before we finish that work, we now have this one for healthcare. I mean, quality of healthcare, of quality care and patient safety bill. What I would like to say is this, colleagues: we are medical lab professionals, and I don't think if there's anybody was invited in this profession, it is us who can make or break this profession. Currently, I don't think if somebody will tell me to go and do another course, I'll be able to do, because already I've invested much in this profession. So it is upon me and you to defend our profession as much as possible. But with disintegration, like sometimes I look at our forums and I see us not appreciating what our colleagues are doing. We just want to cause chaos. It plays to the gallery of the other team, because our division, where we are divided, makes them more stronger and attack us more. The reason why all these things are happening is that between around 2007 to around 2017, we have not had a very strong leadership in most of our formation. The union came into existence in 2018, but it could not also pick up as was anticipated, because we tried to bring in on board, but there were a lot of squabbles, a lot of infights, and so on and so forth. It is just of recent that we have tried to stabilize the union so that the union can fight for its members. I'm also very lucky, and I must be very happy because of the LMSK, because since its inception, LMSK has been as peaceful as possible. And that peace is what will make us to jump over most of these hurdles. The moment we decide we start fighting, the moment we start throwing jabs at one another, the moment we start pointing fingers at our colleagues and accusing them of wrongdoing, because we are not perfect. We are all human beings. We are not perfect. One day, God will help you, who is pointing finger, to sit on some of these seats, and you'll also be you will not be as perfect as you may think you can be currently. What I want to request you is that let us support one another and let us be in this fight and fight until the end. Because if we don't, then in any case, this bill passes. I am telling you, we are done. We are done. We are done. And there's nothing that we are going to do about it. Today I was at the board. I've not found the registrar, but I've talked to a senior member of the profession. He told me, Odipo, if you guys cannot stand firm and fight this thing, you are done. So, LMSK president and your team, we must stand together, and we must stand together and fight this bill. We don't even want it to get into parliament because we know what happens in parliament. Parliament is a parliament of alls, where anything can happen, anything can go the way it wants, so long as there's money. So what we are planning to do is to ensure that it doesn't get to the point where it is being registered in parliament. In that senior colleague has also told me that this bill is suspect. The person who is sponsoring this bill is the current CEO of KH Power. Yeah, because of the things he has failed to do, and now he wants to be seen to be working. Yeah, he was told to bring the master register. He has failed to bring master register. So he wants to confuse people with this bill so that he concentrates power to himself. But you see, you cannot always want to concentrate power because these offices, you cannot hold them together. I mean, forever. You just hold them for a few number of years and go your way. So let us stand together, colleagues, and let us fight off this bill. Now, I think I'm actually on the street. I'm not in office, but I think I've given the synopsis of this thing. In any case, anybody will have a question, I will be very glad to answer that question. Thank you, and over to you, LMSK.
Thank you, Dipo, for the elaborate discussion. I think members who may want to maybe comment, but it is an ongoing conversation. We shall and have more panel to. I know many of you have not read even the bill, so that we can go deep into the bill and know where we feel we are affected in one way or the other. So, much Nicholas, for your time and for joining us. And to the members who have listened to him, this is an ongoing conversation, and I think we shall proceed to engage in the near future. Otherwise, members, you know, we were doing a presentation, and we experienced a few challenges. We ended our presentations by 4:30, and I want to request your 10 minutes so that we end this, so that you're able to receive your certificates at the end of this presentation. Our speaker was almost done, and we had 10 minutes to finish together with the presentation. Otherwise, Odipo, thank you, and welcome Christine to just summarize. Christine, if you can hear me, please proceed and just maybe summarize. Okay, Safari, I'm sure you are in. Your quick comments, I'm sorry that we took long. Mr. Safari, I'm sure you are in. Safari Kidhi is the National Executive Chair for Akamulso. You can make your comments. Mr. Safari? Okay, Christine, you can proceed. Christine, if you can hear me, proceed and just maybe summarize.
Slide number 13, please. Kindly slide number 13. Number 13. Yes, number 13. 13. Yes, thank you. Members, are you able to hear me?
Yes, we are able.
All right. We had already processed our tissues. We had gone through we had already grossed our tissues. We had processed until the stage of clearing. Now, the next stage after clearing the tissues, you have already cleared our tissues, you have rendered them transparent. The next stage is to infiltrate or impregnation. And that simply means saturation of the tissue specimen with the medium that it should be used for embedding. And most of the time, we are using molten paraffin wax. And what is happening in this particular stage, you're trying to clear the tissue, to remove the clearing agent from the tissue, and you are also giving the tissue internal support. Next, please. Next. So after clearing, we'll be talking about blocking. Blocking, yes. So blocking is the process of placing the tissue in precisely arranged positions in a mold containing an embedding medium and causing the medium to solidify by placing it on a cold plate. You can see our embedding station there. It has the embedding module and the cryo module on the left. And then when you block your tissues, you have molds inside there. The two chambers there, one you place the tissues in one, and the other one you place the molds. Then you take the mold and you add some molten paraffin wax, which is normal in that chamber. You just dispense, and then you pick the tissue using a hot forceps, and then you place it in precisely arranged position in the mold containing molten paraffin wax. Then you transfer the tissue on a cold plate. You allow it to cool for some time, and after cooling, you will be able to detach the mold. And whatever you're seeing on your right is what you'll be having after the process of embedding. That is we call it a paraffin wax embedded tissue block, PETB. Then from there, we go to the process of microtomy. That will be the next slide. And the word microtomy originated from the Greek language, mikros. Mikros simply means small. Then temnein is to cut. So microtomy means cutting tissue blocks into thin sections. And you normally use 2 to 3 microns. If you're having small tissues like the core biopsies, you can cut using 2 microns. Just to avoid like exhausting the tissue, because you might need this particular tissue for ancillary or further studies like the immunohistochemistry or for special stains. So if you're having a small tissue, kindly cut it using like 2 microns so that you can have some tissues remaining for subsequent testing. So there you're having just a microtome. That is a rotary microtome from Meyer Company. Then the middle photo is just showing you how the cutting is being done. Those are just serial sections or ribbons. And then on my right, we have the water bath, and the water bath is used to float the tissues so that you can be able to fish them using a frosted slide. The next slide, we are talking about the process. Now, how is it done? The real process of microtomy. First, you have your block and you have your microtome, you have your water bath there, and everything that you need. You have your blade, and in modern day, you are talking about the disposable blades. So you will first of all put your blade on the microtome holder, and then trim or remove the excess wax. We call it exposing the tissue or facing the tissue, so that the tissue surface, it's on top, like it's on top. When you're cutting entire surface of the tissue. Then after exposing the tissue, it's advisable that you cool the block further. The cooler the block, the better the sections. It will give you very good sections. You'll not be having those wrinkles or shrinkage in sections. Then after cooling the block, you cool in a freezer. If you're having a freezer at temperatures of up to -30. And once you're done cooling the block, you will now go back and now section. Now getting your sections. We call it the cutting proper. After that, you will hold that section using the forceps, or you can even support it using an applicator stick. Then you float the ribbon in a water bath. After floating the ribbon in a water bath, you will again remove excess ribbons, just remain with around 2 sections. Then you fish the tissue outside the water bath using a frosted slide. You can say, yeah, I'm picking or I'm fishing the tissues from the water bath. Then you will transfer the number on the cassette, the number that the tissue was accessioned during reception. You'll transfer that particular number onto the block, onto the slide. The number is now on the block. Then you transfer that number onto the slide. You can use either pencil or a printed barcode. If you are able to print those barcodes, it always depends. If you have a hospital system whereby the barcodes can be printed, you just place the barcode on the slide. Then after that, you are done with microtomy, you dewax the slide, or we call it dewaxing or drying. The slide is then put on a hot plate, or you transfer it into an oven. And this oven should be set at temperatures that are slightly above the melting point of paraffin wax, which is normally 56 to 60. Then from there, you put it up to minimum of 20 minutes. There's no harm. You can even dewax up to 2 hours, then or overnight. Then the following day you come back and now you do the staining. So what is staining? Staining is the application of a dye or stain on tissue sections to enable its visibility and contrast under a microscope. In histology, our routine stains our basic stain is hematoxylin and eosin. That is the basic staining technique in histology. Any other staining technique apart from H&E, we always refer to it as a special stain. So the principle of H&E is, because they're using 2 dyes and one of them is basic and the other one is acidic. Hematoxylin is a basic dye and stains the acidic part of the cell, which is the nucleus, blue or purple. Then eosin, being an acidic dye, stains the acidic part of the cell, that is the cytoplasm, and the background pink. Then the solution that you need for staining, when you're doing H&E, you'll need xylene, of course, to complete the completion of the waxing. Then you'll need grades of alcohol, both descending and ascending grades of alcohol. Then you'll need hematoxylin stain. Normally we use the Harris hematoxylin. We have other types of hematoxylins like Weigats, but you're using Harris hematoxylin. Then you'll need a differentiator. Mostly you're using acid alcohol solution. Then we have Scott's tap water for bluing, and eosin yellow, which is our counter stain. So staining can be achieved either manually or use of an auto stainer. Next slide. It can be achieved either manually or use of an auto stainer. An auto stainer, you just arrange your slides when they have this this works. Just arrange your slides in a staining rack. Then you will make sure that you have all the reagents that are required in the auto stainer. You arrange them in order. Then you set your program, and then you load. Once you load, the auto stainer is able to stain the slides and cover slip. And it even has the cover slip has a chamber that has slightly higher temperatures that allows or facilitate or hastens the process of drying of the slide, cover slip slide. But if you don't have an auto stainer, you can still do this manually. And I will just go through the manual processing, the manual staining method quickly for HNE. First, you'll have to dewax your sections in 2 changes of xylene, 5 minutes each, because you have to remove all the wax to allow the stains to penetrate. And then after that, you will hydrate the sections. We say you are bringing the sections to water. And why are we bringing sections to water? It's because the subsequent stains, hematoxylin, is water soluble. And you want to avoid shocking the cells by just introducing water immediately, because these cells, these sections were dehydrated during processing. They are from the oven. They contain no traces of water. So if you just stain in hematoxylin without bringing them to water, you will shock the cells. And when you shock the cells, just like human beings, I am sure most of us, when you're taking a cold shower, will start by maybe showering the legs or the hands. It's just to acclimatize your body to that temperature. The same thing is happening to the sections. You're just trying to create that environment to acclimatize. So what happens if a cell is just brought to water immediately? The cell might react, and one of the reactions of the cell might be a bulging nucleus, which will have an impact on the nucleus cytoplasm ratio. So that's why we bring sections to water, and this one we are doing it using descending grades of alcohol. We are starting from absolute. Remember, absolute is miscible with xylene. Absolute, then down to 17, then to 15, then to water, and then you're staining Harry's hematoxylin. The staining time will depend on how strong or how fresh your reagent is. If it's more fresh, the staining time is reduced. But if it has been used for some time, of course, but repeated dilutions, it will be weaker. So you prolong the staining. This one you can just monitor. You stain a few slides, then you check how it's staining. If the staining is not adequate, you can prolong the timing. Then you rinse the sections after staining hematoxylin. Differentiate using 1% acid alcohol. This simply means removing excess hematoxylin. Then you rinse again, because you don't have to differentiate for long. Then you blow it in Scott's tap water. And this stage is just trying to render the sections more alkaline, because Scott's tap water contains basic salts, sodium bicarbonate and magnesium sulfate. So you're just rendering the sections more alkaline. Then you counter stain in eosine. We said eosine is going to stain the background and the cytoplasm for 3 to 5 minutes, again, depending on how strong your stain is. Then you are now dehydrate. You've brought these sections to water. They are now containing water. You've stained in solutions containing water. Now it's time for you to remove that water again, because you're going to clear in xylene, and xylene and water are not miscible. So you're going to dehydrate again, now using the ascending grades of alcohol. You start from 70. Why 70? Because the eosine used is normally prepared using 70% alcohol. So you dehydrate in ascending grades of alcohol up to like 2 or 3 changes of absolute alcohol, just to make sure all the traces have been removed. Then you clear in like 3 changes of xylene, after which the sections are mounted in DPX, and you let them to settle, to dry. If you don't let them to dry and you put like 2-3 slides together, they'll stick together because DPX is sticky. So you let them to dry and examine under the microscope. We normally use ×4 objective, then ×10. Then after staining your slide, it's important that as the person who has done all that process, you look under the microscope and see what the outcome is. So this is a very well stained tissue. You can see there the nucleus, the staining very well with very well purplish blue there. Then the background is pink. The tissue was well processed, you can see, because we said clearing renders the tissue transparent. You can see the tissue is very transparent. You can see the lumen at the middle very well, showing that, telling you that this tissue is from a tubular structure. It might be mostly a colon, and even the types of cells. Then from this, your part as the technologist is to make sure the process is seamless and the outcome is good. I think this slide really looks good to me. I'm hoping it does to you. Then after this, it's time for you to dispatch the slides. You dispatch the slides, you just arrange the slides on a rack very well. Then you dispatch them to the pathologist for reporting. You arrange them according to the number, as in you according to in order. The previous slide, please. Previous slide. You arrange the slides, then you dispatch the pathologist for reporting. The pathologist will be able to look at the slides, at the slide, and decide whether they can make a conclusive report based on that particular slide, or they'll need ancillary tests. These are just additional tests for them to make a conclusive report. And here, maybe they might request for some special stains. I've said any other stain apart from hematoxin and eosin in histology, it's rendered special. Depending on what they are seeing under the microscope, maybe they are suspecting it's TB, they might request for ZN or Phyt Faraco, or they might request, depending on what they see. If they are suspecting fungal, they request for PIS or Grocots. Yeah, special stains. And if the case turns out to be malignant, they might request for immunohistochemistry, which is also done for them to give a conclusive report before it is dispatched to the clinician for management. That's just a summary of what we have been talking about, from tissue fixation, processing, up to when the slides are reported. And that is the end of my presentation. Thank you very much for listening. Later, Fred. Fred, back to you. Frederick, back to you.
Thank you so much, Christine. Let me come in for Fred.
All right.
Yeah, I can see comments from the attendees. Thank you so much. A good refresher. Doreen Kenya saying nice presentation. Anthony Odinga, history made. Janet, you've reminded us of histology sessions. Yeah, so good comments from your presentation. Maybe we can go for a few questions. We can take a few questions. Okay. The first question is from Charles Ondere. How can you perform IQC for tissue processors? To you, Christine, how can you perform IQC for tissue processors?
Tissue processors.
Yes.
Okay. In histology.
A question from Charles Ondimo.
In histology, what we normally do when you are brothing, you normally take. It's so tedious for you to take one particular cassette, then you process, like for you to ensure that it's well processed, then you start processing others because you've seen the process is long. So what normally happens when you are doing your grossing, you normally get an extra cassette, and that extra cassette is normally treated for QC. So when you process it together with all the other tissues or sections, the tissues, all the other cassettes till the end. Then once you've done your microtomy, after sectioning, once you've done your microtomy, before going to staining, when you reach to microtomy, you will cut that particular block, that one that you had indicated for QC. You will cut that one. Then after sectioning, you go ahead and stain it. And after staining it, you examine under the microscope to see the outcome of the process. If you feel you're not able to make a judgment about that, you can request the help of a pathologist to look at it with you. Once you are convinced that the process is okay, you can continue with sectioning the others. But if you feel like maybe you're seeing some opaque materials there, that means you had an issue with the processing. That means you have to check your processes. And for tissue processing, you are able to reverse it. You can reverse it to just the way you are coming, that with ascending grades of alcohol, then clearing, then infiltration. You can still go back. You put the cassettes in xylene, they'll be able to remove the wax. Then you go back to descending grades of alcohol. Then you start going up again. So for you to avoid all these processes for back and forth, it's always good for you to, that's why I said you have to consider the time for processing and then the type of tissues you're having, so that you do the process once and for all. But for QC, it's very important. And that slide, you have to archive it. Once you've stained that particular slide for QC, because it's checking your entire process from processing, microtomy, all the way to staining. You have to archive it. And then you document it somewhere. Hope that's sufficient.
Thank you so much. Another question from
Welcome.
Lydia Kanyogoro. Lydia Kanyogoro is asking, do we still apply adhesive on a slide before fishing?
Not really. Okay. So okay. I'm sure all of us that who had keen interest in histology, or all of us who studied histology, we all did histology. That's what you are taught. You apply adhesives, then you fish. That's what you are, and the function of that adhesive was to flatten the tissue. Assuming that the tissues, I think it's the kind of knives that were being used in the past. So the tissues were meant to have those creases. So you are able to flatten the tissue, to remove creases from the tissue, from the section, before it is fished out in a water bath. But nowadays, once you follow the right thing, you do the right process, you follow the correct process to microtomy, when you are sectioning, you will see from the slide that had ribbons, you'll see that your sections are coming out just flat. So you don't need to, you just hold with the forceps well, then you float it in a water bath, then you fish. In current practice, no, it's too much work. If your sections are good, you don't need to do that.
Thank you. The second last question from Caroline Moy.
Okay.
Caroline is asking, what would you recommend to treat a fibrofatty tissue, e.g. breast, to achieve quality microtomy?
To treat?
What would you recommend to treat a fibrofatty tissue, e.g. breast, to achieve quality microtomy?
Okay, fibrofatty tissues, that one, you have to deal with them. When you're grossing there, make sure you've given those tissues enough time to fix. Just give them enough time to fix. Once they fix them, they fix well, and make sure the dehydration is done completely, like well, using clean reagents. Once they fix well and they process well, when you're doing microtomy, you'll not be able even to realize it's a breast. You will just have good sections like other tissues. But if you don't process well, you will always have problems during microtomy. You will have like holes in the sections. So make sure the tissue is well fixed. That is number one. Then number two, you process them using clean reagents.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you.
You're
Questions are
welcome.
coming in. Questions are coming in, but we'll not be able to answer all of them. Cliff Randa is asking, how can we aid better visualization of images during tissue process by use of modern technologies such as AI and ML, considering future dynamics in diagnosis?
So I didn't get the question.
How can we aid better visualization of images during tissue processes by use of modern technologies such as AI and ML?
By visual images, it means
yes,
during processing or during microscopy. I'm not getting that so clearly. During microscopy or during microscopy or processing? Because when you're processing, you don't see the images for tissues, but
okay,
the images are visualized during microscopy by pathologists most of the time. But
okay,
but with current technology, I'm told the images and the images. Okay, I've not seen them myself, but I'm told you're able to just, there's a machine that will just place a slide, and then the image will be able to be displayed on the screen, and that image can be shared to the pathologist where they are, and they can report. But during processing, we don't have images.
Okay, the last question from Charles Ondere. How do you troubleshoot poor eosin intensity?
Poor eosin intensity, that one is intensity. Maybe you have used your eosin for so long, so you just refresh your eosin. Or another thing can be maybe the preparation. You know, when you're preparing the eosin, it should be 1% in 70% alcohol. If you're using eosin yellow, you take 1% in 70% alcohol. So if you don't do exact measurement of the eosin, of course, it will not be able to stain well the tissues. Another thing about the eosin not being able to stain the background well, it might have been maybe the tissues are not well processed. So you have you'll be able to check your processes. If your staining is not working, your eosin is not working, but your hematology is working, you check under the microscope. If it's pale, you can refresh eosin. If it's not working, if it's still pale, you can add glacial acetic acid. That one helps to ripen the eosin. If it's still not working, it should work after adding glacial acetic acid. Then the issue is with the tissue processing.
Thank you so much. Before I give you the opportunity to give your final remarks, I can see the LMSK president is also in the meeting. Maybe, Mr. President, are you able to speak?
Hello, Mr. Bruce. I'm sorry, I'm not able to speak. Okay. But just to give a comment, Odipo spoke properly about the bill. Unfortunately, I did not hear him mention the kind of support both the union, the association, the society will need from lab practitioners. And I know support is needed along the way, because this matter may escalate to a point that we may take the legal route. And legal route means legal fees. So we are just asking laboratory practitioners who are attending this meeting, after understanding the situation, when such a time comes, please, when we may need support financially from you as the formations of laboratory, ACMULSO, NAMLO, and LMSK combined, kindly be free to channel your support and always be vigilant in our social media channels so that you can get any updates on those platforms. So that's just something I wanted to make it clear that we never know how things will go. And kindly, when we call for your support, we are together in this as laboratory information. Please be ready to support us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. I think we have come to close to the end of the webinar today. This webinar, as announced earlier, will attract 3 CPD points. Processing of those points plus your certificates will begin immediately for the next 72 hours. After that, if you've not gotten or received yours, you can reach out to LMSK through their email, their official numbers, which are on our websites. Another announcement is that we're having our next webinar on Wednesday from 3 p.m. You can register and pay. And I think that's all. Just to say what the president has just announced to us, we may need your support, both your time, your money, or any kind of support that may be needed. Please avail yourself when called upon. So that's all, and I'm giving our presenter, Christine Osale, for her closing remarks, then we end the meeting. Welcome, Christine.
Hello, everyone again.
Hello.
Hi. Okay, first of all, I still apologize for the technical hitch that was experienced today. But we hope things get better in future. And of course, we are looking forward for more of these webinars. And I want to encourage the MLOs who are inside here today, kindly, if you are thinking of specializing or not specialized, kindly come and join histology. Histology is a very interesting field, and with the current world and with cancer becoming our #1 concern, kindly join us. And maybe we can all be able to convince our leaders to give cancer diagnosis and treatment, or to treat it with the heaviness it requires, just like they have done maybe for other conditions like HIV, because cancer is actually a real burden for everyone. And maybe the more the numbers, the better, and the better the voice. And thank you for listening. Thank you for joining. Yeah, it was nice being here on this platform. Thank you. Back to you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Christine. Thank you, members, for joining today's webinar. See you next time on Wednesday.